Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another video. And now it's time to continue on with the Sword Art Online Marathon with the second part in the Alicization story. That's right. In the last video, we talked about part 1 of the giant story arc. And today we're going to be talking about part 2. So, like I said before, we will be getting into mild spoilers. I'm not going to get into much for this one, but I will be talking about stuff that happened in part 1. So you have been warned. So let's get started. So after Rios and Humbert tried to assault Ronier and Tissé, Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh's pages, Yu-Gi-Oh had sliced off Humbert's arm, and Kirito had taken off Rios's, both of his arms, and Rios ended up dying, and now they were taken by Alice. They found Alice. Well, Alice came to them, but they found Alice. They found Alice and they've been taken to the Central Cathedral where they are supposed to be executed, but now they are taking this opportunity to break out of the Central Cathedral jail, go all the way up to the top of the Central Cathedral to save Alice and also stop Administrator from essentially destroying the underworld and maybe even going on to the outside. There's your plot for part 2. Now, this is when the plot really gets more action-oriented, whereas part 1 was more of the setup, like usually part 1s are, with some hints of action along the way. Part 2 definitely is the step above. It's where it's nothing but action. And essentially what this part is essentially, in terms of video game, it's a boss rush, where Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh are now going, not necessarily floor by floor, but on separate other floors, they are running into Integrity Knights, which are the bosses, and they have to take them down because they're trying to get to Alice, and they're also trying to get to Administrator. So there is that, but also there is more emotional moments in this part. This is when, if you thought Mother's Rosario was intense, like this takes it to a whole new level. This is when the series really gets a lot more emotional, especially with what happens with some of these characters. The battles are absolutely fantastic. The music is the same. It's usually kind of been the same even in part 1. We'll kind of get into some new stuff later on. But everything else is still the same. Animation-wise, looks absolutely great. I had no problems with it. There were a couple of times where I think it was the facial expressions. The facial expressions on some of the characters when they're fighting, or just some of the faces they would make throughout certain scenes kind of bugged me a little bit. But I can't really fault it to that, just because, again, like I said, this is a boss rush, which means almost every single episode, these characters are going into fights. The fights are brutal. They're intense. These fights can kill, and it definitely shows that. But it also goes to show you how much Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh have learned in their time at the Swordcraft Academy, and now they're able to pull that off here. But also with what we learned in the in part 1, is that their swords have unique skills to them. And in this part, we get to see, in terms of this second part, we don't really see the full potential, the powers that their swords can bring. Yu-Gi-Oh, we get to see a little bit more, but Kirito kind of saves his for, certain stuff. Oh, another story event that I forgot to bring up. Asuna is now aboard the Ocean Turtle. She has found Kirito, but he is still comatose after his little incident that happened in part 1. They are using the Soul Translator to fix his brain after what happened when he was attacked. And Asuna is still there, trying to make sure that everything's okay. And meanwhile, Dr. Kojiro is still kind of skeptical. She thinks that Kayaba might still be alive. We don't know. And we also learn why Kikuoka has started Project Alicization, that he wants to create was it bottom up or bottom down? I think it was bottom up. I could be wrong, but correct me in the comments. Kikuoka wants to essentially make an artificial intelligence that he can use for the military, so that way, innocent lives don't have to be lost, and, robots and shit can go fight wars. So, and we learned that, the whole SAO incident is what really made Kikoka want to do this. So we understand his motives now. There's still more that we don't necessarily know, but, they basically need to find Alice, because Alice was one of the first people to break a seal and broke the law, and which is why Alice got taken away at the beginning of part 1. Since Alice broke the law, that's what makes her unique. So, and her name's Alice, and the whole project is named Alicization. What a coincidence! But that's pretty much all I can say about that. What else can I say about story purposes? Nope, I don't think I can, because that's too much into spoilers. But essentially, you're getting with this second part, you're getting, like I said, a lot more action. This is probably where the emotional moments in the show really start to rise, because as we progress and get into part 3 and 4 of this story arc, it's just going to get a lot more crazy. And I'm kind of debating if I want to talk about a couple things. I'm not so sure, but because I do want to keep them spoiler free, but I don't know. But like I said in my part 1 video, I am not going to rate each individual part, since it is part of one grand story. I want to wait until the very end and give it an overall grade for, how long it is. So no grade for this one, but I can say as a fan, or, if you're watching this from the first time and you're going to see where it goes, you have a lot of great stuff coming, and I think you will enjoy it. All right, and that concludes part 2 of the Alicization arc. I do plan on releasing my part 3 video sometime tomorrow, so you can expect that. And then sometime early next week, I'm going to make it a huge effort to get that final part out there, because then that Friday, we're going to have my first reaction to the brand new Sword Art Online movie, Aria of a Starless Night. It's coming up, guys. It's coming up. I'm excited. I'm curious to see what I'm going to think about it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again in part 3.